Further ado, I give you Dr. Stephen Greer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. You're awesome. The first thing I want to do is thank you for that lovely introduction, short and sweet. And I want to thank everyone else. And I particularly want to thank the Yavapai Nation, the Native people who are hosting us. We owe them. Thank you. A lot of people don't know that I'm 5/16 Native American. So, Cherokee and Catawba tribe, North Carolina. On both sides of my family. So it's a real honor to be on sacred native land. And Sunday night, we're going to be out in the desert on sacred native land under the moon and the stars. Beautiful. And I really want to thank all of you who've attended and who are also our VIP who will come to the after party at 10. We're going to party hardy till at least midnight. That's kind of how I am. You work hard, you play hard, and you have a good time. And I really want to thank all these volunteers. We have like 16 or 20 volunteers. And I just want to mention a few of them. Lara, who's organized and set all this up. Thank you, Lara. You're an angel. And her partner, Marcel. Pat, you just saw. Raven. Where's Raven? Stand up. She took the bijou picture. And well, we've been together for 24 years, right? And I'd also want to thank Justice, who's been helping us. You've met him, an angel. And his son, Alex, who's helping and is going to help us get this CE5 Contact Retreat Center going in Hot Springs, Virginia. And my dear friend Shane, who's here helping us, took time off work to come. We have a wardrobe malfunction. This came off. This somebody's clip. At least I'm not Janet Jackson. I told you. I mean, you have to get used to this thing. Luckily, I don't have that equipment to worry about. So if you're a prude, there's a door. This clip. We're going to need a new one of these roach clips for this. Not that kind. And I really want to also thank my wife, Emily, who's not here right now. She's coming for the week training. Now, a lot of people don't know she stays in the background, but there would have been no CE5 initiative, no disclosure project, nothing without her. Thank you. Love you. Yeah, this is there. I'm put it on there. That sticker. So, and a lot of people don't know the backstory of that. And we're having our 43rd anniversary this summer. And four daughters, 11 grandkids. Been quite a journey. Those of you who've been married, how many people have been married 30, 40 years? You know, it's a journey spiritually and in every way. I know, and I'm an anachronism now, I guess, but it's beautiful because we met in a lucid dream, as some of you may know. And she's been the soulmate and the person, the indispensable unsung heroine. My wife. So one thing, we can go to the next slide. By the way, you know who these guys are. You know this guy. Tony Craddock. He just passed away a week ago. An angel. We would not have had a lot without him. He was the premier new energy, quantum vacuum energy researcher. Met him in 27 years ago. And this conference this weekend I'm dedicating to the memory of Tony Craddock, a genius, a big-hearted man, a sweet man. And we want to remember his wife. One of the stories I love about him, he kept track of everything for me. Dead man triggers, all that. And he filmed the 1997 thing with the members of Congress when we were doing that for the disclosure project. I forgot he filmed it because I'm so busy. Yeah, you're working full time as an emergency doctor, 4 kids. And he says, do you remember we have all the VHS tape, but back in VHS, remember? Those of you old enough to remember VHS? This is 25 years ago. And so I said, oh, I forgot we even filmed that. So he got him. His archive is preeminent. And the work he did on new energy, but also for the Disclosure Project, always behind the scene, an unsung hero, Tony Craddock. Thank you, Tony. Now this is just, I took this with I was with Demi Lovato out in the desert last year, and she had an iPhone, whatever it is, 13, and she took a picture of the sky, and she didn't have to do anything. You can see the Milky Way and stuff. This is a picture of this place that we're getting. It's a placeholder until we can build on this land. Hot Springs, Virginia, near the Homestead. And it's right near the Jefferson Pools, Thomas Jefferson's Pools and Hot Springs. And this is Native American sacred land, or even the Native peoples would go there for healing. There's a healing hot springs, and then warm springs, which are the Jefferson Pools. This is about 3 minutes from Jefferson Pools. And it's a 1907 Victorian. And when we get it done, we're gonna close April 27th. And we're going to put in, so it has 10 bedrooms and 8 baths, and it'll be the sort of the seed where we can from there go up on the 683 acres we've gotten to do CE5 contact. For the first time in 32 years, we'll have a dedicated training facility for all of you ambassadors to the universe. So that's what our plan is. Which is very, really exciting. It's only oh, hi, Olivia. Angel. So that is a big project we're undertaking and have a lot of people helping us, but just keep us in your thoughts. We're going to be moving it quickly to get that open. And the reason for that is that this property is about 5 minutes from this 683 acres. By the way, Alex and Marcel and I and Lara hiked up there a couple weeks ago. And it's totally wilderness, forested. Now I need somebody, do you have a lumberjack here, a timber guy? We need one really fast. I know, it's a dying profession. But we hiked up on these old logging trails, and just going in and out was almost 5 miles on part of this land. It's surrounded on 2 or 3 sides by national forest. And when you get up to about 3,000 feet, you can tell because the leaves haven't come out yet. You can see that there are like 4 or 5 mountain ranges you can see forever. And it's this big level plateau up there. On the way up, we had a giant black bear that came running down as we were going up, and it literally shook the earth. It was this giant, probably 350-pound dude, bigger than I am. I'm only 230. So it was like, wow, this is so cool. I mean, we weren't scared because we were making noises. It was more afraid of us. But it's a really beautiful piece of land surrounded by pure wilderness. And this is a lake, Moomaw, that's really nearby, 2,500 acre lake. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a big project. It's something I've always wanted to do because the next phase I want to do, you guys are sort of the beta test, excuse this for saying this, but you're like our experiment to do a weekend where we cap it off going out under the stars. And then on the last night, we would do all 3 nights, but we couldn't get that spot for just Sunday night. And then what I want that to be, people who've done this can come to the week-long intensives. But then from that group, I want to develop a program to teach people to be teachers, because I'm not going to live forever, right? And so in the morning tomorrow, you're going to hear from Justice and Pat and some other people who have been training people in their local areas. And those of you who've done this with CE5 teams can also chime in. It'll be in here. They're doing that. I'm not. I don't get up till noon. I go to bed at 3 or 4, get up at noon. That's my normal schedule. Normal in big quotes. Normalcy is so overrated, isn't it? So they'll be doing that. And then on Sunday morning from 10 until about 11:30, they'll also be teaching you about trans-dimensional photography. And I just want to talk more about this when you see some of the images through the weekend, because everyone's used to doing photography on a tree or 747. These civilizations, when they're going beyond the speed of light and they're stepping down in frequency into this dimension from trans-dimensional space-time, appear in an almost infinite number of phenomena. Spheres, points of light, electromagnetic signals, tones that come through our equipment, ETs that pop in and pop back out right beside people. I mean, cool stuff, weird stuff, but great stuff. And I really want people to think about that, because most people, and I'm not a photographer, but I have this idiot-proof camera. I can probably get some. Does it mean, respirators and cut downs on the throat and chest tubes I'll do, but don't give me a camera. But charming, sure. But this, I can just aim and shoot. This is good. But these guys know what settings, how long the lens is open, all that technical stuff. And it's really important to know if you aren't 10 thumbs like I am with camera equipment, because you'll learn a lot on Sunday about that. So those are those morning sessions. I think there's very nuts and bolts practical things for you guys who want to go out, make contact, but then also be able to document it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so that's really exciting. And then Sunday, I know we ran out of space, and I apologize. The site where we're going Sunday night can't hold everyone who wants to go. Those of you who can't make it can be in here or someone else and see it online. The site can't really go past, I think we, kind of at the max. But if you are going to drive out there, it's about a 7-minute drive. Try to grab some people, put in your car, so we don't have 400 cars out there. We only want to have 120 to 200, something like that. So 4 people to a car would be enough. If you can. If you can't, we understand, but you may have to park a little further away. You may have to walk 100 yards, 200 yards, but because we're out in the desert. There are restrooms out there and everything. So, and the site, we went there yesterday at sunset. Here's something to think about. The reason I'm going to this now is to plan ahead. We were out there yesterday at about 6:15, 6:30. As the sun was about to go down over the western mountains. Unbelievably beautiful. Huge ancient saguaros and mountains. And it's this isolated, quiet, pure Native American land. It's gorgeous. And there's some horses nearby too, which are fun. And so what you might want to think of doing is having a big, I'm from North Carolina. This is what we always did. We'd have a big midday meal, and then something light at dinner, right? Any other Southerners? And so you might want to go have a bigger midday meal on Sunday, and then take maybe a box lunch or something out there, because there are picnic tables and stuff, and be out there for sunset and dusk. And so I think it'd be really cool if you want to do it, because a lot of times when we're setting up for these events, these visitors know we're coming. And they will do prodromal things in advance. And we've really observed this. They know. So that I'm just suggesting that because it would lessen the crunch of people in all at once. You don't have to. I'm just suggesting it, But it'd be a lot of fun because when I was out there last night, was it last night? Yeah, last night, we were like, wow, this is so a stunning, one of the most beautiful sights that we've ever done CE5. It's so pure, beautiful. We're really fortunate to thank you, the Yavapai Nation, for letting us be here. So that's just a suggestion. So now I want to move on to what we want to talk about. You may have noticed on your schedule, I put in something called Cosmic Detox. So if you're drunk, you go to the tank and detox, or if you're, and well, here's what has to happen. It's like that song, Free Your Mind, in vogue, that song? Love that song. Free your mind. All of us have grown up in a culture of duality, division, and hatred and war. Thousands of years of it. The extraterrestrial civilizations, they're not interested in people who are buying into that duality. Because in order to be interstellar, you have to have reached a point of understanding the ineffable oneness of the conscious, cosmic, holographic universe. And the fact that each of us are awake, and the ray of consciousness that makes us conscious is actually singularly one with the unbounded. There's no separation. The native peoples of America thought it was very odd when Europeans came here and they viewed themselves as separate from the earth and separate from the stars and separate from each other. There are many cultures where that's very foreign. And it's because it's so wrong. Now, all of us have lived in a milieu, an environment, where we've been taught that there have to be cowboys and Indians fighting each other. There have to be gay and straight people who hate each other. There has to be black and white people. Now, all that's being phased out. And what these covert programs want you to believe is that there are the good aliens and the bad aliens. And the good aliens are this and the bad aliens are that. It's all stagecraft. That's the term used at the CIA. And people don't want to hear this, but I will tell you, if you think that there are civilizations allowed out of their solar system, technologically, that have malice and hostility and all that, and are in our environment, you're wrong. Flat out, I'm just going to tell you. You got to free your mind of that, because the extraterrestrial civilizations are not interested in you. I'm being blunt here because I'm an emergency doctor. If you have a brain tumor, I'm not going to say you got a migraine. And this is deterministic. Your consciousness and your belief system is deterministic as to whether or not these civilizations want to make contact with you. Now, a lot of people say, well, they're all great except there was one or two. I said, really? Would you introduce us to them? Why do I say that? First of all, it's not true, but you can't prove a negative. So what I say to people, if there are civilizations, one or more, that are an existential threat or hostile to humanity and the earth, if you're a sincere ambassador to the universe, which is what this is, you want to make contact with them first. You want to be part of an initiative to do any conflict resolution. I'm saying if there isn't. Now, the things that are actually tricking everyone are things that have been set up since the 50s. I'll give you a date, 1953. I have a document from CIA Director Smith, Psychology Review Board, about the psychological warfare implications of the UFO subject. I'm quoting. It's in my book. Nobody reads. But that's my mantra. Nobody reads. But what's interesting about it is that now there are the reptilians, and then there are the bad aliens that made a deal with Truman or with Eisenhower. I knew a man who was with Eisenhower. I had the French intelligence and Air Force people give me an account of that meeting of Eisenhower out at Muir Edwards with the ETs. This is all a false narrative launched by sociopaths who want to divide the world into alliances. For what purpose? Demagogues only control you through fear, conflict, division, and war. So if you buy into that, you're free to. Look, I know people who believe the earth is flat. I know people who, when I grew up, said the world is 8,000 years old and we rode dinosaurs, the children. There's a museum in Kentucky. Have you seen it? For $30 million, where it shows children riding the dinosaurs. 65, but it wasn't 65 million years ago. It was 8,000 years ago. Now you're free to believe whatever you want. And as Senator Patrick Daniel Moynihan said, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own set of facts. So some facts. Since the 1950s, in October 1954, we're going to go through this a lot tomorrow. We have had operational man-made UFOs using electromagnetic field propulsion. In the early days, late 50s, 60s, they had guys who had either deformities or were very short or extremely tall, made up like a Hollywood set to look like an alien to abduct people or to have terrifying encounters using chemical weapons, psychedelics, electronic warfare, directional energy weapons. As the 60s and 70s ground on, those graduated to these creatures, look like grays, some look like reptilians, and they're man-made. I know physicists who worked on them and built them. You're going to hear tomorrow from a new top secret whistleblower who, it was after he broke away from these covert programs, they tried to abduct him, and he had enough foresight to say no. And even though he was hit with a sort of electronic system to make him pass out, he stayed with it long enough to hit one down. And when it opened up the skin, there were all these wires and tubes and stuff. Those are the grays. Now, are there ETs that may look similar? Yes. How else could it be convincing? So they've taken actual ETs that have been retrieved, created these very lifelike, what are called nanobio machines, very sophisticated, way beyond any robot you've ever heard about. And those have been used on man-made UFOs to do all this. To what end? To create the new duality. Because what they would want to do, this covert secret operation, covert government, they want to trade the conflict between Russia, China, US, and humans, keep that fire burning until they can convince people, like they were 2 nights ago with the buffoonery that was on Fox News, about the report, 1,500 pages. You saw it all? Everybody saw this, came out from the Pentagon, just released, documenting the abductions and the radiological radiation burns and all these things. 100% of that, including Dr. Kit Green, who's a member of this covert group who did a lot of the study for the Pentagon that was released incidentally, just as there are people in the US government penetrating those projects, which you'll hear about. I can't talk about who, when, why, but that's what we're working on. And it's the biggest breakthrough in 30 years. No, 70 years. But what they're doing, they're now doing what I said 3-4 years ago. They're going to start trotting out the files that they have ready to roll out to the public, to the media, through the UFO subculture, through documentaries that will portray these ETs, at least some of them. Because they only have to convince you that there's one interstellar civilization that is a threat. And that justifies war in space. That justifies the end of the world. That justifies uniting the world around a new world order where it's, instead of it being in peace and universal truth and us going into space peacefully, the world is united around a militaristic junta, a militaristic regime. That's the game they're playing. Don't be fooled again. We can prove this now. As you know, 9 months ago, we released the Cosmic Hoax. Guess what? Jacques Vallée let it slip in one of his books that in 1985, he had as a document. I know 2 other people that have it, but they won't release it in its totality, that describes the CIA abduction program in Argentina and Brazil. Innocent civilians being kidnapped and tortured. This is not a controversial fact. This is a fact. This is a truth. Now, The problem is, if you hold that view, and I will admit that I'm a far outlier in this field saying this. I've been saying it for 30 years. I have never changed what I've said. Why? Because in 1993 and 4 and 5, I was read into these projects by people who were tactically, operationally in them, running the abductions. I later met physicists and other scientists who worked in underground, deep underground military bases, DUMBs, where they made these creatures and ran the programs of who they were going to abduct, when, this and that. Now, I'll make it a little more complicated. Those systems have been run on people in the government to convince them there's a threat, people who have had actual ET contact that they then piggyback a fake alien encounter on the back of it. Classic misdirect. So this is what I call by cosmic detox. And unfortunately, what I'm showing here on this slide, you have this black hole of disinformation. You know, the ETs are demons, the abductions, the mutilations, the threat from outer space, on and on and on. And that's like 90% of the people who start on this path. Now, I have people in my team, I will admit this, who've started out pure-hearted. They go on this path. There's something called Google that got invented. And the algorithms on this subject will push you to that black hole. It will absolutely push you to that black hole. The truth, most people get diverted off that path as soon as they start inquiring and they pull the curtain back. Boom. It's this gravitational black hole that pulls everyone in, and then they're gone. And at that point, the ETs are no more interested in meeting with you than, you know, a Nazi, because you've been brainwashed. So this is why you got to free your mind, Sonny. Because if you hold those views, you're entitled to. But don't expect these ETs are interested in you. They're not. I can say with authority, they are not. Why? Okay, let's say that you're appointing someone to be the ambassador to Israel. Would you appoint someone who is a flagrant anti-Semite? Would that make any sense? Or let's say that you're to be an ambassador from the United States to Nigeria. Would you appoint a KKK member, a Klansman, and a white supremacist? No, I'm trying to make this very graphic, because some people say I'm too intellectual. I said, let me just lay this out, folks. Nobody from those civilizations that have gone way on this path, hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us, they do not want to deal with folks who have in their hearts and in their minds that delusional belief system that can only lead to World War III. They're not interested. So that is to get the right frame of mind, at least suspend all the prejudices and bigotries that you've been indoctrinated with. If you've ever read a UFO book, gone to a UFO conference, Googled the internet, 90% of what you've gotten is this black hole of false information. It's like pre-positioned weapons of mass destruction that have been put out there psychologically to blow people up. And guess what? As soon as that fear factor comes in, people say, are we going to contact the good aliens or the bad aliens? I said, well, if there were any bad ones, can we meet them first? Aren't we about creating universal peace? I'm not being cheeky. I mean it. Now, there aren't any, but if there were. So this whole mindset is built around fear, disinformation, brainwashing. And it's been a very concerted effort since 1953, at least. Now, don't feel bad. They've run that game on senators I've met with. They've run that game. They ran that game on Reagan. That's why you had Star Wars. They ran it on Pence and Trump. Their inner circle came to me just before the election and said, oh my God, they've been convinced there are these aliens we have to fight. It's the Space Force. They've run it on Democrats, Republican, Independent, doesn't matter. That's sort of a Truman Show. Keep everyone divided, left, right, this, that. Doesn't matter. They're going to run that game as soon as you make an inquiry. That's the game they're playing. Now, unfortunately, most people have their fixed beliefs because we, as 98% genetically identical to chimpanzees and apes. I love this story. Chan and I were hiking we were going up this steep mountain up in the North Carolina, Virginia mountains to the Crabtree Falls. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. Beautiful. And it was hot, and I had my shirt off, and I'm a beast. And we're going down the mountain with a family, and there was a man with a little girl on the backpack saying, "Daddy, why does that man look like a big ape?" I went, "Oh, wonderful." I thought, yes, she got it. She knows who I am now. Anyway, so shameless. But I said, wow, that from the lips of babes comes the truth. But I'm like a big ape. But so we have to recognize that part of that, some species don't murder each other. I don't know if you know this. No, I mean animal species. Chimpanzees do. They organize into troops. They have wars. There are civilizations where the entire planet is from a lineage where there is no such thing as murdering one another. Remember this. And the ones that did have a proclivity, that tendency, they're not allowed out of their solar system until they get this right. And their spiritual higher consciousness, which is what this weekend's about, overtakes that inclination towards violent retribution, duality, conflict, and division. That is exactly the existential crisis of this hour on Earth. And getting that right determines whether we make it for the next 30 years or terminate. That's how important this is. This is not trivial. So I think people have to, take their heart, look at it, see, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? How many things have you taken into your consciousness that has been put out there for the last almost 70 years, 69 years, that has been designed by people who are, and this word is used promiscuously too often, fascist. Fascist. They want to control the earth through militarism, and they can't get it to the next level without having an enemy out in space. This is what Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, told Carol Rosin before he passed away, literally deathbed confession. That was the plan. That was in 1974. He knew it had been around for 20 years already, since the 50s. So I think that we have to be careful, because what is in your consciousness and what you believe determines what you think. And what you think determines your actions. And your actions then determine the future, your future and all of us collectively. So we have to be very careful. And I think this is why I'd like to encourage people to, on this first night, to suspend all of that negativity and fear. Because fear of the unknown is normal. But when you have a belief system based on the equivalent of a cosmic elders of Zion, the tropes put out about the Jews to justify the Holocaust, etc. I lived in Israel for 3 years with people who survived the Holocaust in my building. And I was 22, and I was from the South. I didn't know any people who had survived that. And when you heard the stories of how they got away with that, it wasn't that, you can't control all of Europe, all of Germany, without first brainwashing the populace, right? And terrorizing them. Fear. It's psychological warfare. That's what's been done for 70 years to every single one of us by the intelligence community. I'm telling you that straight up, flat out. You may not want to hear this tonight. It's controversial. It is not the popular paradigm. It's the truth. So that is really important to get that straight. And at least if you can't, get totally detoxed, this cosmic detox I'm doing here in the first few minutes, at least give peace a chance, at least give contact a chance. And don't go out there going, I want to meet with this species because they look like us and not that one. You're a racist. No. I mean, or a speciesist about our different species. So you're just extrapolating the garbage of human, us versus them racism and division and extrapolating it on a cosmic level. Well, as Einstein said, no problem's been solved by the level of consciousness that created it. That consciousness is what they want all of you to believe. And if you believe it, it will be true. See, this is the thing. This world is created first in consciousness and thought, and then speech and actions. It's from the inside out. All of the cosmos is emanating from that cosmic mind. And each of us are a ray of that infinite mind. And we have that kind of power for good or for ill. But we have to understand that all of us have been raised in a society where there have always been someone that demagogues, whether they're religious, political, economic, sexual, whatever, have demonized people because they are different from us or from your tribe and your group. And that's kind of tragic when it's muskets or bows and arrows or clubs. But when there are thermonuclear weapons, and you're going to hear this weekend, classified weapons that are 1,000-fold, not 1,000, more deadly than a thermonuclear weapon that are in these classified programs. Now we're talking about an extinction level event. But they can't do it without your cooperation and your buying into that paradigm of division, hatred, and duality. It's the opposite of where we need to be heading as a people. And each time we move forward, this cabal of sociopaths that are beyond black, and we just had a movie that we released called Above Top Secret. It came out 2 days ago. You should see it. Think about the technologies that trillions of dollars in beyond black funding have created through studying interstellar technologies from us downing these craft since 1940s with the most brilliant minds. The highest IQ engineers and physicists I've ever met are not at Harvard and MIT or Caltech or in my medical school. They're in a SCIF, a secure communication information facility underground in a base, working on this stuff. That's a tragedy. It's a brain drain. But that kind of brain trust combined with those kind of funds and the willingness to keep the public, our political leaders, and other people deceived, 70 years of that has resulted to bringing us through the brink. And that's what all of us are trying to pull us off of. Now, one of the most powerful ways to do that, I always tell people you can walk and chew gum. Why not walk and chew gum? So we can walk the path of peaceful contact and higher consciousness, what this weekend is about. We can also work to disclose this and try to give the intelligence, the information, the assets, the actionable intelligence to the people in the US government that now are turning to us and saying, we need help getting inside these projects. Now, a lot of people, we're going to go into this tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's going to be earth-shattering for you guys when you see this. And online, too. Again, thanks everyone for joining online who couldn't be here personally. There's thousands of people watching. We have to think about this. And I think that it kind of dawned a lot of people in the UFO community when Dr. Davis, the memo leaked out from Edgar Mitchell's archive about the meeting I had with the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Remember that? 1997. So I'm at the Pentagon. I'm doing a stand-up briefing for the admiral who's in charge of intelligence for Joint Staff. Edgar Mitchell was there as my guest to learn, mainly. He wasn't there because he was only inside. And I had some military people who were witnesses, one all the way from Eisenhower, old guy. And I had said some years after that, after the admiral left that command, that even though he was read into unacknowledged special access projects and black projects, he could not penetrate the ones dealing with extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs and the technologies. So I gave him a document, and it listed the project code names and numbers as of the early 90s. He was able to find someone who confirmed, and he tried to get in and get read into, which military speak for briefed on. He was threatened. His life was threatened, and he was threatened with demotion. Star being taken off his lapel. That's true. Now, when I said that 20 years ago, everybody, oh, that can't be. Someone like that, no. This is a complete decapitation in every country in the world, not just United States, of the legal authority and chain of command. And that's what I've been dealing with since 93. I learned that in 1993, 29 years ago. So what we're going to have to do is find people, there may be 2 or 3 here, or 5 people here who know people who work in these projects in various eras, that need to come forward and give actionable intelligence down to the structure of the underground base, what was there, what was laid out, project code names, everything, operational details. That's what I'm in charge of assembling and handing off to the relevant officials in the US government that now realize that there is a secret government within beyond the government, that with top secret clearance, black project access, unacknowledged special access project, they are denied access and blocked. I'm saying that with absolute knowledge and authority. So we need your help. So we can do that so that the government of we the people, if it has any get up and go, if it has any kind of courage, we're looking, we found some, they're scared. You have to help us. All of you have to go and scour your network. Who might have heard about this? Who in your family or friends, 6 degrees of separation, have been read into these projects? And then you contact me, and it'll be held in confidence. I do not betray a confidence, ever. So, but that's what we have to do. It's about knowledge, information, data, details, and that's what we're putting together. Anybody who has that kind of information, please send a note to witness or whatever at seriousdisclosure.com. Now, while we're doing that, while we're trying to make a Hail Mary pass for at least the US government and its allies, and this involves the executive branch, the White House, Congress, the Pentagon, we need to also figure, well, that I've been hoping and trying to do since 92 and 93. But what can we do for certain? Now, this is where it gets cool. What can we do for certain? You, me, together, collectively. We can understand these civilizations, and we can vow that while this is trying to be sorted out in the corridors of temporal power, let's call it that, the normal governments of the world, you and I can become the front line ambassadors from humanity to these civilizations. That's what this weekend is about. If that's really all it is about. It's really that simple. Now, getting there has got a lot of information, but that's really our purpose. And that was the initial reason why I started the CE5 Contact Initiative in 1990, 32 years ago, this spring. And I realized that the ETs that I'd had contact with as a child and then later when I was 18, you all know that story if you've seen Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, they wanted this taken care of. And I think there were a number of opportunities where it could have been taken care of. And it kept getting dropped. There were Secretary Generals of the UN looking into this, and they got sidelined. We have had presidents all the way back trying to find Carter, for example, in the 70s and before. They ended up being pushed aside and threatened, or in Jack Kennedy's case, assassinated. And then we've had other countries try to do the same thing, all to no end. I think I said this when I was in a secure facility a few weeks ago. If I'm in here, I'm the last stop on the F train, which means you're F'd. In other words, you've tried to find out about this and you've been blocked over and over again. So what we aren't blocked from is the free will, our intent, our consciousness, and our higher consciousness. The aspect of ourselves that transcends our ego and individuality, that's that singularity of consciousness that really is our true self. That's infinite, and that's infinitely powerful. And when we meditate and experience that state, we can affect not only our immediate lives and those around us, but the entirety of the planet and beyond that, the cosmos. Why? because through quantum physics, you know about entanglement and entangled. Every point in space and time is perfectly integrated, no matter how far away, 1,000,000 light years, 5,000,000 light years, billion light years from here, instantly through consciousness, the conscious field, and those other dimensions closer and closer to the infinite. We'll go through that. And that's why when we meditate together, when we go into deep consciousness, when we see this reality and then practice it, it has this edifying, salutary, elevating effect on us, everyone in this immediate area, everyone on Earth, and on other planets. It isn't limited. So think about that. When we do these meditations and when we do these contact protocols, CE5 contact, we're actually not just doing this for ourselves and our family and our immediate, it's affecting the entirety of the cosmos. Similarly, when we do very terrible things, it's all connected. A lot of people don't realize the reason all the ETs from various civilizations came in large numbers in 1945 and onward was when we detonated atomic and then thermonuclear weapons in the early 50s. The thermonuclears were much more powerful. Everyone knows what an electromagnetic pulse is from a nuclear weapon. What you haven't been told about, and which Oppenheimer and Edward Teller and others didn't know about, was that that sets off another kind of signal or frequency that's faster than the speed of light that actually disrupts the fabric of the universe and disrupts interstellar communications, travel, and other worlds instantly, even though they're way out there. That's why they've done everything they can to keep us from going nuclear. Here we are, of course, with Russia and Ukraine and NATO on the verge of using them. But this is why every single nuclear facility, atomic bomb squadron, a nuclear battleship, atomic energy back then and now Department of Energy facility have been surveilled and are surveilled and watched by these extraterrestrial civilizations, because it not only can destroy all life on Earth, it's highly disruptive to the fabric of this entangled holographic cosmos, physical cosmos. So this is a kind of a comprehensive view I'm giving you here this first evening. It's some heavy stuff. That's okay, you're ready for this, right? Y'all ready for this? Lord, yeah. Okay. So that's what we really want to get our minds around it. But, that's how healing takes place, though, is saying, okay, there's all that. But the thing that's more powerful is consciousness and humans, each of us individually and then collectively, contacting with that higher consciousness, becoming one together, seeing and contacting these extraterrestrial civilizations in a cooperative, peaceful manner for the purpose of advancing the relationship and advancing not only humanity and the Earth, but the entire cosmos, the cosmic order. That's why we're doing this. And it works. I'm curious, how many people here have the CE5 Contact app and have used it? Oh, great, a lot of people. We have people, now it's not every time, but we've had so many people who just with a pure heart. And it's interesting. I have found that the people who know the most about this subject have the hardest time with it. And the people who are the most innocent and pure-hearted, boom, it just happens. To wit, for example, there was several people who are, in different parts of the world that have been like tradesmen or truck drivers or just salt of the earth people. They're not New Age people swinging crystals and singing Kumayam or whatever, which is fine. I like crystals too. We have a lot of them. But I make fun of myself, but why not? But they're just, salt of the earth guys and women. And they'll write into our website and said, oh, I was doing this and I just had the CE5 Contact app playing, went into that state. And all of a sudden, this craft materializes and comes right in front of the window or right over my vehicle. And we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases like that. But interestingly, those kind of happen. It's sort of like when you're in a state of innocence and pure-heartedness, where your heart and your mind are free, not trapped by fear and too much intellect. You get into this higher state of consciousness very easily. And it just happens. It's easy, it's spontaneous. Most people overthink it, they try too hard, right? So I think that the more you have fun, this is to be fun, and the more you do it with a sense of joy and purpose, and also with really where your consciousness and your heart and love, the neurons, the 30, 40,000 neurons in the heart and in the brain and in your mind and heart feeling or resonating together. And just, and Pat likes to say, just think of the greatest love you've had in your life, or a pet or a child or whatever, that feeling, put that love out and connect it to this knowledge of the mind, whereby you're listening right now. You're trapping it in yourself, your body, your ego, but in reality, the consciousness itself, that field of awareness, is by space, time, matter, nothing. So that's beautiful. And once you bring the heart and the mind together with an intention, now this is the big one. Why are you doing this? There's another little detox. If you're doing this because you're wanting the thrill of seeing a UFO, I'll show you lots of pictures. Stay home. You don't need to go out there. We have thousands. If you're doing this because, in other words, I call this dolphins at SeaWorld. So a lot of people will do this because they want to have, it's entertainment. And so it's like paying your admission and you're going to see a dolphin jump through a hoop. How degrading to the ETs and to the dolphins at SeaWorld. So no, that's not what this is. This is about a sincerity in your heart and mind to actually be a point of contact at this very critical juncture in human evolution between humanity, yourself, and these civilizations, all of them. And in that state, all kinds of beautiful, magical things happen. And without that intention, ironically, nada. Because as one guy I recently met with, who was a top secret guy, and he had this contact experience, and he said, these ETs, when it was a physical, like they touched him on an operation, he could tell, could feel and see everything in his heart and mind. Not in a violent way, but just they knew. You cannot, you can't fake it till you make it kind of thing. It's like, no, you can't fake this. It's either in your heart and your mind and what your intention is, or it isn't. And that's another reason why you have to ask yourself, what are we doing? Why am I here? What is the purpose of this? It has to be a higher purpose. Now, it's perfectly fine. Some self-interest, you're curious, you want to see, you want to learn. That's normal human. But that has to be guided by a higher purpose. And when you give yourself to something bigger than yourself, then all things are possible. But you're going beyond your individual ego and your human limitations and flaws, which I have, you have, we all have. I'm filled with human flaws. Anyone who knows me. It's like when I was a medical resident, I had a friend that said, you think you're a normal person screwing up, when in reality, you're a screwed up person doing very well. I said, how true? It's funny because it's true. So I always tell people, just, be real, be in your state of pure-heartedness, and allow yourself to experience that higher state of consciousness that is your normal state. Now, let me talk about that for a minute. You've all, I'm sure, seen Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind in my books, but think for a moment that there are 600 people here. It's a nice crowd, and we're all individuals. And as I look at each person, there's a beautiful individual soul, a frequency. But you're all the light of awareness, the consciousness that's within you. And my conscious mind, whereby I'm awake, is a singularity. There aren't 600 of them. There's one. And that's been proven scientifically. And even all the way back to the Vedas, but more recently, the father of modern particle wave theory and quantum mechanics, Erwin Schrödinger, in 1908, says the total number of minds in the universe is one. It's a singularity. Tesla knew this. Almost all great thinkers know this. So it's now been proven scientifically that that's the case through the work of Dr. John and many others. And that knowledge can be used for something very wonderful. Now it can be used for rather troublesome behaviors, like some of the CIA remote viewing and remote warfare systems. But it can be used by a group like this to literally change the course of human history. This many people doing what we're going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and out on the Star Sunday, can actually move curve, talk about bending the curve, bend the curve away from where we're headed onto a path where we're going to become an enlightened, peaceful civilization, and we'll be interstellar, our children and grandchildren. But the entry ticket, there's a, to get an all-access pass out there, you have to at least become nominally civilized, at least one step out of the jungle. Now, humanity, speaking as a big 8, right? Humanity is really like half a step out. We're emerging. But the point of emergence is when we become a peaceful, global, and interplanetary civilization. War is behind us, and we have stopped defiling and raping and destroying Gaia, Mother Earth, because we're letting the technologies that have been discovered for 150 years run the planet instead of the petro-Nazis, right? And by the way, that's another false dialect. It's another false duality. Gee, should we do windmills and solar panels or drill more oil wells now that we're running out of oil and gas is $6, $7 a gallon? Neither are a solution. You can't make enough solar panels and windmills to run 8 billion people in enough time before we melt down this planet. The solution, nobody, not on Fox, not on CNN, not at the New York Times, not on left, right, center, no one, and I mean no one, is talking about the solution, which is in a classified project and in the minds and hearts of some brilliant scientists that have had their technologies confiscated. That's something else we have to see in our vision, because even though that is extremely dangerous to pull those technologies out, the inventors all think the world will beat a path to the door because they made a better mousetrap. I said, no, Murder Incorporated is going to beat a path to your door first, unless you dump it out on the internet blockchain so the whole world has it free and clear of intellectual property and patents. Forget about money. Anybody who knows someone with these technologies. The other thing that I find very quaint is that everyone thinks they're going to outsmart these covert projects. So let me give you a peek of some of what we're going to talk about on Sunday afternoon. Since 1956, because I met a man back in the early 90s who was in his 80s who had developed these systems. The intelligence community have had not only innate, everyone knows about innate remote viewing, that's all out there. Why have they left that out? It wasn't the important part. The important part were the electromagnetic systems that interface with consciousness that allow for reliable penetration. Ingo Swann, I knew him, I was a friend of his. I mean, he wasn't read into those projects. Dr. Russell Targ, he wasn't read into those projects. We were. I was offered a system by this guy who invented it in 1956. I said, no thanks, that'll get me killed. But you don't need it. But what I'm saying is, this is why you don't have to waste any time, whether you're doing CE5 or whether you're an inventor with a new energy, quantum vacuum, zero-point energy system, or you're in the intelligence community. That group have the ability to penetrate, Ingo Swann's book, Penetration, but with absolute reliability, not only naturally, but with these electronic assists. Why? How? Well, they started studying in the 40s the electronic communication systems. It looked like a little black thing that the ETs had that they used to actuate thought from point A to B across the universe. They can do it innately, yes, but they also have electromagnetic systems that are trans-dimensional. Their energy fields cross the speed of light barrier into these other dimensions. It goes from point to point instantly with complete reliability. Now, classified products have that, which is why I don't care how deep underground you are and how much electronically sealed skiff you're in, totally penetrated. That's why don't waste your time and energy worrying about it. I can't tell you how many farcical things. You want to hear a farcical story? I have lots of farcical stories. I feel like Cher. I should have taken a rock and killed myself years ago. Moonstruck, not great. So I'm here setting up this meeting to brief the director of the CIA. This is 1993, ancient history, right? 29 years ago. And the guy who, sent me to FedEx and said, you're going to be the first person to brief the administration, the CIA director on this. I didn't believe him. And he says, but we have to, nobody can know about this. The most powerful interests in the world are going to try to stop this. I say, yeah, of course. It's the biggest secret in the history of the world. And he makes me go to phone booths. Remember when there used to be phone booths? And talk in a code to communicate. This is true. This is how farcical. And I told him, I said, John, these guys are going to know everything we're doing in real time, because I had already been read into these electronic programs that penetrate space-time. And he said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I was the short list to be Secretary of the Navy. I'm going, yeah, that and $1.50 will get you on the metro in D.C. So I literally said that. He said, no, this is how we have to do it. I said, okay. I'm a country doctor from North Carolina. I don't know nothing. They're like prissy and going, I don't know nothing about birth and no baby. I don't know. Okay, I just go along. All right. Love that movie. I know it's politically incorrect. But so I go, wait a minute, I'll go along with this. So I have a meeting here in Phoenix at the Wrigley Mansion with a group of the cabal, deep, way beyond black. And the court is a late night meeting, later than this, and it's a whole conference table with suits and stuff. And this one guy at some point pulls me aside, he says, hey, Doc, we know all about your meeting you've set up with the CIA director. He doesn't know anything, and he's not going to know anything, and neither is the president. If you want to talk to people who know, come to us and people like us. We're the ones who run all the supercomputers and banking system backups. We're the ones who do all the work for others, for the government in these black projects on this. And he gave that, and he knew facts, when, where, everything about this meeting that we were setting up, talking on phones in pigeon speak. I don't know what it was. I mean, this is a true story. I feel like Jack Nicholson, as good as it gets. Go so crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here. You love that. I'm going, all right. So I call up this guy and I say, this is what just happened. And he goes ballistic. He says, that can't be. I said, they know everything. And so what I've learned over these 28 years is those guys own the dark. They own the secrecy. They own all that. Guess what we own, though? The light, the truth, disclosure. That's art. See, you don't know where we're lucky. And this was said to me in 1992 by someone who pulled me aside after the head of Army Intelligence tried to kick my ass and bribe me with $2 billion. She says, you don't know where you're lucky. I said, what? He says, well, they're jealous of you guys. I mean, those of us, the early group doing CE5. I said, well, why? They said, because you're free. You're not in that system. They can never be out of that system. You're free. You're a free agent. You're a free denizen, dweller of the universe. And they wish they were. So this is where all of you need to realize, wow, we're so lucky. We're so fortunate that we have that freedom of our own spirit, our own consciousness, our hearts and our minds to do the right thing. But we have to choose to do it. The choice. This is the big choice. And to the extent that we make that choice, we will find ourselves propelled into a wonderful future. Because with all the fear mongering and stuff, when I've been taken and shown the future, it's unbelievably beautiful what the earth will be, what humanity will be, how we will become interstellar in the dozens to hundreds to thousands to 500,000 years going into the future. And so what we have to realize, though, that doesn't happen by itself. The real irony is that, in a sense, on the Empyrean realm of the ideal and the idea, it's already there in another dimension. But to make it Here, it takes all of us acting together, or at least enough of us. 1% maybe, who knows, could be less. So that's why, I'm so excited about doing these sort of events where we have thousands of people in present, but also online, doing the meditation and the Sanskrit puja and all of that together. It's so important. It really is us creating the path for that good future for us and our descendants. It's really beautiful. So now what I want to do, I want to pivot away from this a little bit. We can take that boogamy thing down. And I want to talk a little bit about what this is. Now, I had someone attack me, say, he's doing a Hindu ceremony. This is Sanskrit. It predates any organized religion. People are such bigots. So just to give you a little background, I know, I'm blunt to a fault. At least with me, you always know where you stand. So there's no question about it. What's really interesting is that if you go back, the Sanskrit language, I'm convinced, is from another star system. Most linguists agree that it's the root of all Indo-European languages, very ancient. And I think it predates any recorded history, way before, pre-Diluvian even, before the flood and all that. And it was it was never written down. It was an oral tradition for eons, and then eventually got written down in a transliteration, which is the writing in Sanskrit over to English, etc. But it was an oral tradition from very enlightened masters and beings, on and on and on. And I'm convinced that the language itself, in the Vedas, the ancient Vedas, which are, there's Sam, there's Rig, there are all the different Ayurveda you've heard of, those were actually orally transmitted. But in one of the writings, it says that the sound of the word, its name and form, that the intonation and frequency of it creates that reality. Now, in truth, any language can do that. But this is apparently very close to that in terms of resonance, the thought, the sound component of thought, the resonant quality of the thought, and then the word. And so after, I foolishly got injured and hurt myself and then dropped dead when I was 17, I wanted to learn from that near-death experience how to get back to that state of cosmic consciousness and unity consciousness just without having to drop dead. Which was not nice, but I survived. And I thought, well, let me do it. So I learned that there was someone giving a lecture on meditation. So I went and learned on June 28th, 1973. I just turned 18 on my 18th birthday to do this. And then I later became a meditation teacher. But now I have no attachment to all this. I had a really good friend who was a medical doctor in LA. You know how she got into that samadhi, higher consciousness state? Playing the harp. I know athletes who've done it through their training. It's really whatever fires your rockets, but you got to start somewhere. And this is beautiful. So it's a puja. It's a Sanskrit ceremony. It lasts, 15 minutes? Pat will assist me. And it just, the way to experience it, it's not to overthink it, but feel it with your heart and let the sound go into your mind and heart. Don't worry about what the words mean. And then we'll do that. And then afterwards, I'll give you the mantra that I teach. And you can, if you have one you like better, again, I have no ego attachment to this particular mantra, but I will tell you, it was a mantra I was given incorrectly as a teacher of meditation back in 1974, 5, because they had forgotten the tonality. So the mantra, you never say it except when you're teaching. It was da da da, and it should have been da da da. Makes the C steady logo. The first tone is a perfect fifth higher. I'm not musical. We need a musician up here. Higher than the other two. And when I realized that was 30 years later, and I was in Crestone, Colorado, and I did a God consciousness meditation in the Zen Dome up there. And then I went back to my condo to meditate before we went out at night. And I went into this state, and I actually went into that field of unbounded mind. And as I was emerging from the infinite into relativity, I heard the mantra as it was supposed to be given. I'm just telling you, but I don't tell this story often. And that was like, yes, that's it. And it's interesting because it makes a perfect triangle. Da, da, da. So I'll give the mantra, and then we'll sit and meditate all together for 10, 15 minutes. Then we're going to take a journey. And then we're going to do this each night. I'm going to take you on a meditation. We'll be quiet. And then I'll do a guided CE5 contact protocol. And I sort of read the feeling in the whole group. And we'll make contact and invite these interstellar civilizations to show them where we are and invite them here. Now, we're inside, but cool stuff happens inside. Just before we came out here, we were talking, and over my right shoulder, Raven was looking out over the desert, and a beautiful red ding object appeared and disappeared. Happens all the time. So they know what we're doing. These civilizations absolutely know. But you're less concerned about the phenomenon than the experience, than the being there, being in the moment. And if you're in the moment in a pure-hearted way, then everything is potentiated. So just remember that. It's the purity of the heart. It's the love you have for the earth, humanity, and the future, and these ETs. And one of the things, just as we would apologize and ask forgiveness to people who have been wronged on this planet, native people, slaves, what have you, we should also, for the ETs, all the ones that we've killed, all the ones we've captured, we've done horrific things. Come in. Somebody's knocking. Anyway, what's machinery? Sounds like something taking off. Hey, it's a ship. So, you never know. So that's what we're going to do, and the reason I like doing the puja, it sort of sets the feeling for then the meditation and then doing the CE5 protocol. Now that consists of, first, this is the part everybody wants to jump out of, staying centered in this pure, quiet, conscious state. And it doesn't have to be spectacular, just be centered and calm and let everything go. Your thoughts, your worries, just be in a state, just let go of everything. And be in a state where the mind is pure and the heart is happy. And then when you're in that state, it's like a hypnagogic state or a lucid dream. Just intend to see this room above the hotel, above Fountain Hills and the native land, and just look around. Let yourself see with your inner sight through consciousness, because it's omnipresent. Consciousness is not limited by time or space, which means if you go into a quiet state of awareness, you can see anywhere you intend and wish. And then if you get a sense, may not see visually, you may feel. Oh, I think this was a technical note not recorded earlier. How many people are coming to the after party after? Oh, wonderful. It'll be fun. It's out by the pool. So when we're done with this meditation, we'll go out there and have a good time. There you go. I'm sorry? You can't hear me? Is the system down? Huh? Can people hear now? Yeah. For tomorrow, we'll have to get a new clip. Everybody hear me? Even with this thick jacket, it doesn't stay because it's just worn out.
Okay. They said
As we say in the South, it's been rode rough and put up wet.
They can hear now.
So this will be beautiful, our maiden voyage together. So we'll be standing for about 15 minutes. If you have some physical problem where you need to sit, you may. Apologize for this, folks. Can you hear me? No? Why don't we move this over then?
Last.
Tech. All right. Can people hear that one? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that, folks. So we have flowers that we will offer, and fruit, and cloth. So let's center ourselves in peaceful consciousness. And we'll do the puja together and enter into sacred conscious mind in peace. Apavitra pavitrova sarvavastanga topiva yasmarek pundarikaksham sabaya vyantara sushi avahanam narayanam padma bhavam vashishtam shaktim shatatputra paracharamsha vyasam shukam gaura padam mahantam govinda yogindra matasya shisham Shri Shankaracharya Matasya Padma Padam Shahasta Malakam Shisham Tam Trotikam Vartika Karamanyan Asmad Gurun Santa Tamanatosni Shruti Shmirti Purananam Alayam Karun Alayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhasha Krito Vande Bhagavanto Puna Puna Yadvare Nikhila Nalim Paparishad Siddhim Virateni Sham Srimachri Lasitam Jagad Guru Padam Natvatma Triptim Gata Loka Gayon Payo Patandaram Shri Shankaram Sarmadam Brahmanadam Sarvatim Guru Varam Dhyayami Joitir Mayam Avahanam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Asanam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Snanam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Vastram Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Chandanam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Ashkatan Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Pushpam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Dupam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Deepam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Akshmaniyam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Naivedyam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Akshmaniyam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Tambulam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Shuri Palam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama Arartikyam Karpurakaram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendraharam Saravasantam Hridayara Vinde Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami Arartikyam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamalepyo Nama Akshmaniyam Samarpami Shri Guru Charan Kamalepyo Nama Pushpanjalim Guru Brahma Guru Vishnur Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Akanda Mandala Karam Vyattam Yeno Characharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yeno Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Brahmanadam Param Sukadam Kevalam Gyan Murtim Vishvatitam Gagan Sadrisham Tatvamatasha Laksham Ekam Nipilam Bimala Machalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Sahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjan Shalakaya Chaksurunumitom Yeno Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Pushpanjalim Samaprami Shri Guru Charan Kamale Pyo Nama. Now let us be seated in silent meditation together. So let's close our eyes. As we sit here in silence, allow yourself to feel the quiet within. And take some deep cleansing breaths. In with your mouth, out with your nose, or in with your nose and out with your mouth. Make a circuit. And as you breathe in, see that your mind is awakened and your body energized. And the prana, life force, chi, is filling you with the light of awareness. And as you exhale, exhale fully. And as you do, let go of all your concerns and worldly worries. And become relaxed from your feet up through your legs, your torso, your arms, your neck, your head. And thus, with each inward breath, you're breathing in light and energy, and your mind is centered and filled with consciousness, pure and infinite. And with each exhalation, you become more calm and centered, peaceful, deeply relaxed. So let us watch the breath. And
as we watch the breath, become aware of the mind watching. What is that? And we see that the consciousness within each of us is one. And so in that state, being quiet and centered, I will introduce the mantra. And it is 3 syllables. And the first syllable is a perfect fifth, higher in tonality than the other 2. I'm Nama. 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 And the first syllable is, in English, lettering. I am, M as in mother. The second syllable, na, is N as in Nancy, A. And the last syllable is ma, M as in mother, A, H. I'm Nama. 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 So as we hear this, we just think it quietly. And now that you've heard it, repeat it gently. And let your mind focus in a way that isn't strained, but that is relaxed, like a light focus. And so as the mantra is repeated in thought, you are focused on it without straining. And it opens like a portal into quiet, deeper, infinite awareness. If at some point you become distracted and have other thoughts, sensations, this is normal. Don't struggle with it. Don't push them away, but gently let go of those thoughts and perceptions, and then return to lightly focusing on the mantra. And you just go back and forth gently like that. Never straining, but just enjoying the peace of it and the tonality of the sacred and ancient mantra. At some point, you may become very quiet and realize that there's neither thought nor mantra nor perception of anything but the mind itself. That is the experience in its initial form of samadhi, the experience of pure consciousness without limitation, structure, barriers. So let us sit for about 10 or 15 minutes together and meditate with the mantra. And just let yourself see it as a mechanism, a technique to allow yourself to be centered, calm, and experience consciousness in its pure form, which is beyond the limits of space and time, and even individual self, transcendent, pure being. and centered in quiet consciousness. Allow yourself to sense that the quiet mind within is an infinite ocean of pure, absolute consciousness. It is not limited by any point in space or time or dimension. And yet it is present in its totality, indivisible, as one, at every point in space and time and dimension. And we feel that in our heart and know it to be true. We see it in our mind. And thus we are free to see any place we wish to see. Know any discrete thing we wish to know. And now allow yourself to feel that all those who are sitting in this room together and all those meditating with us around the world, while unique individuals, the conscious mind within us is one life, one love, one great being, spirit within. And thus our hearts are filled with love, and our minds are free to be infinite. And in this state, allow yourself to gently expand your vision, your sense, the feeling, as you expand beyond the room that you are located in, into the sky above us. And allow yourself to glimpse, feel, sense the land around us, wherever you are on earth. And free as a bird in spirit, we rise upward above the earth, and we see the far horizon. And whatever is around us, cities, towns, wilderness. And in this state, we can see what is there physically, but also trans-dimensionally, in the astral world and in the other dimensions of light. And so as we expand, we effortlessly float above the beautiful earth, all of us together. And we see the earth, and she is conscious and awake. And she is our mother, and we honor her, and we love her. And we can feel that while she is not human, she is awake. It's not just dirt and earth. She is a conscious, living, breathing being. And we allow our hearts to be filled with love for the great Mother Earth. And as we gaze upward to Father Sky, we behold the stars and the moon. And we see that the space around the earth, it's itself unbounded pure consciousness, frequencies creating the star, the sun, the moon, the planets. And all of it is pure conscious being, resonating as that world. And the conscious mind within us and the cosmic consciousness that goes forever throughout the entirety of creation is one. And thus, we are never separate. And in the Great Spirit, we are all one with each other and with the earth and the cosmos and with the worlds of light. And so our hearts are filled with peace and joy and love. And now our vision is crystal clear. And we allow our minds to gaze around this area, wherever you're located, and around the earth and our solar system and our galaxy, the Milky Way, and intergalactic space. And it goes forever without cessation. And thus it is that inner space and outer space are both one and infinite. And in this state, allow yourself to gaze and ask Great Spirit, this infinite vision, to open to you any extraterrestrial civilization, spacecraft, or persons, or person that you should meet and who are aware of us here on earth at this time. And so as you do this, with a pure heart and acknowledging that the consciousness whereby they are conscious and awake, and the great mind whereby each of us are awake, is one. And thus we are all one great being, shining through an infinite number of selves, of life, of intelligent beings. And so in this state, let us be quiet for a few moments and ask the higher self in consciousness to show you any space station, spacecraft, planet, ET person, whether nearby or far away, and allow it to unfold effortlessly, like the unfolding of a flower, without straining, without intellectualizing, just with perceiving in an innocent and pure-hearted way. as you get a sense, maybe a glimpse or feeling, it may come all at once as an impression. Acknowledge those people or person and invite them here, wherever here is for you on earth. And those of us here on this sacred native land in Arizona, we show them our galaxy, the Milky Way. And on one of the outer spiral arms, our star system, the sun, and the third planet from the sun, the Earth, a beautiful blue sphere of life and love. And then we show them our location as we zoom in. We guide them and we allow them to see our vision connecting to theirs and to their instruments. And we show them our location down to a few feet around us. And we zoom in. And we show them exactly our coordinates. And we invite them here in universal peace. And without prejudice, we ask them to come to this place, to gather as people from the stars and earth, as we begin the cycle of fulfillment, the cycle of enlightenment on earth and in space. And as you show them your location, acknowledge that they may appear in matter, three-dimensional, in light, in astral vision, in any number of ways, electronically, tone, feeling, and accept whatever form they wish to appear and communicate with you and with all of us together. So let us do that for a moment in silence, guiding them to wherever you are on earth, and those of us here in Arizona to this beautiful sacred land. And then listen for any message or see any vision they send to you, knowing it is for both you and all of us together in the singularity of consciousness. Now for a moment, as we see the gathering of cosmic beings and the people from the stars and earth coming together in peace. Let us turn to the Great Spirit and the infinite being that is within each of us and within all things, and is limited by none, and is unbounded, pure love and pure consciousness. As we do a prayer for the earth and humanity, and we ask the Great Spirit to bless the earth, to protect us, and to forgive us, and to see the path made clear in the hearts and minds of everyone on earth, of the way into a future of unbounded peace, of endless advancement, of the children of earth joining their place with the children from the other star systems. And we ask the Great Spirit for each of us to be shown our role, and we ask that we be guided all the days of our lives and to fulfill this, our destiny, to live together on earth in peace, to travel into space in peace, and to leave behind the old ways and to embrace the age of unbounded advancement and enlightenment on earth. And as we do this, let us ask the Great Spirit to move all obstacles, and that the earth is freed from the shackles of tyranny, and the wondrous sciences and technologies long withheld from the children of earth are revealed and used only for peace and for the benefit of humanity, and not as weapons. And we see that all of us together in this vision can manifest that good future that is dawning within our hearts, within our minds, and on this earth. Namaste. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. What a beautiful, magical group. I've never seen 600 people so centered and beautiful. Wonderful. So that's what we do. That's your sort of a brief, everybody feel the peace of that. And I'm sure many people saw what's around us in space. And I didn't have a clock. When I opened my eyes, it was 9:59. How weird. So what I'd like to do, I'll pick this up because somehow that other mic doesn't like me. It keeps dropping. I want to thank all of you for coming. And I want to encourage all of you as you go into dream time, as the Aboriginals in Australia call it, tonight, to go into this meditation, see with your clear heart and mind these civilizations. They're watching and they hear and they see all that's happening, and they're looking for you and you. They're looking for people. The United Nations isn't doing this. Our State Department isn't. The White House isn't. The Senate isn't. 10 Downing Street isn't. We are. So it's our sacred obligation to fulfill what others have left behind. And with compassion and love, to do this not only for ourselves, but even those who are resisting what we're doing, that we put them in that light. We don't respond, we know who they are. We know what they've been trying to do, but we put them in that love. We put them in that light, and that's how the hearts are changed. It doesn't change through hatred and anger. Even, remember, as Gandhi was shot by that fanatic, he turned to the person who shot and blessed that person as he fell. That's the spirit of what we're doing. That's how we should live. God bless you all. We will see you at the after party, those of you coming, and the others will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming.